Hello. I've got lyrics in the description today because I just didn't feel like writing out a whole thing, and that makes it easier for me. So this episode is just kind of one that I'm doing because it's another week. Gotta do an episode. And I tend to do them based on what I'm thinking about, what's going on in my life at the moment. This week, this title is, what did I decide I was going to call it? Not that. How would you even spell that? Maybe B-U-R-P? Let's see. Hiding from life, right? Hiding from life, I'm pretty sure, is what this video is called. So, yeah, it sounds dark, but, it's... I mean, it is kind of dark, but it's meant to be a hopeful video, not dark. Anyway, let's just get right into it. The song that I picked is called The Beacon, and I'll do what I always do, I'll just read through in the description. So it's the chorus of the song and the bridge. It's burning beacon in the night, can't feel its heat or see its light. That single solitary guide, it must get lonely there sometimes. Let me stand by you, the honor is mine. Let me stand by you, loneliest light. I love this song, and I think that those lyrics sum up what I like about it, and that's what I want to talk about today, is basically just that song. So hiding from life is like when you're not really all there. You're just kind of hiding from all the risks, and life is always trying to teach you lessons, and when you go out into the world, you're going to be experiencing all sorts of things, but you can lock yourself in a state, even if you're physically out in the world, where on the inside, you're not really there, you're hiding. And then the lessons that you learn are all generally going to be based around why you shouldn't be hiding, and just trying to get you to come out, and all the problems that it causes, all the things that you do that you wouldn't have done otherwise. That's what all of your lessons are going to be about, because you're going to notice these things keep coming up, and that's always what it's going to be. And when that happens, it means that you're not really experiencing everything that there is. And that's not to say that if you start experiencing it, that you've figured everything out and you did it. It just means that now you can kind of move forward at a normal pace instead of kind of stagnating and holding on to everything because you're afraid to take any risks. We end up in this state, we stagnate out of fear. It's always going to be fear related, but a lot of people are on different levels of this stagnation. Some people aren't. Some people are out and about and they're going through life, and some people are very much hiding from life. And that's what I want to talk about today, if this resonates with you. If it doesn't, then you can learn more about people who it does resonate with. And if it does resonate with you, then you should be able to learn more about why this is and what you can do about it. So the song that I used, The Beacon, it's about this person who is just, they're kind of done. Like they've been a bright beacon of hope for other people, and they make people feel happy, but at the same time they feel very alone, and they feel like they're shining but no one else is shining, so they're the only light in the dark, And then it's like, I feel like everyone knows someone like this, where there's just someone who you just feel like you want to stand back in awe at their existence, because they're so like good that you just like you could write about them, and just the very fact that you wrote something about them is automatically going to make it interesting, because they're that interesting of a person. But when you really get to know them and you get to talk to them on a personal level, you realize that they feel very unhappy and alone, and that, like, on the outside it's different. They don't seem that way, you wouldn't know that, but on the inside they're not really there. And the song is about, like, when this type of person is at the end of their life, and it's sort of saying goodbye to them, but not in a commanding way that's like, please don't leave me, I need more of your light. It's sort of just saying, thank you for being a light. I'm sorry that you had to do it alone, but let me stand by you and send you off. And it's written in such a beautiful way that as soon as I heard it, I was like, wow, this is something. And I envisioned a music video for it. And then there was another song that I envisioned a music video for. And then eventually I realized that the videos I had in my head for those two songs reminded me of a story I was writing a few years earlier. And I ended up turning that story into kind of a musical with these music videos that I had in my head, and it all mashed into one thing. And turned into this whole big story. And then I made up two sequels for it. All of them include music, and they're all really fun worlds to exist in and to think about, and I love thinking about them. But I'm trying to write them, and I'm I'm kind of a procrastinator, so I haven't been getting a lot done, but I do plan to write the book that's based on this song. And I think you'll know which character is the one who I'm talking about, like the type of person who that song is about. Um, it's not the main character, but you'll know who it is. It's no secret. It's not like I made it hard to figure out. But I just I like writing about things that interest me. It's not like it has to be personal, or I think it has to be interesting to other people. I write about it if I like it, and I want this book to be on my YouTube channel in the same format as this. Like, I'll write one chapter and it'll just say an untold story, just like Fallen World has chapters. And hopefully you like it, and hopefully I finish it soon. But for now, I'm just doing this, and that'll be ready when it's ready. So it seemed relevant to bring it up in this video because, I mean, it's about the inspiration for it. But if you feel like you're alone, and you feel like you know a lot of people who you treat better than they treat you, and if you suddenly you imagined like something that they did to you that you maybe weren't that bothered by, or you forgave them for it, and you imagined, what if I did that to someone else, and you're baffled by the idea, you're like, I couldn't even picture myself doing that, I could never do that. And you have to realize, like, you're spending time around and giving energy to someone who's doing something that you would never do, something you could never even imagine yourself doing. And that's not really a good thing. Because even though you're doing well by not stooping to that person's level, you're not giving in to what's easy and just saying, you know what, screw it, I'm going to treat you how you treat me, and you're holding on to who you are and treating them with light. You also have to remember to treat yourself with respect, and to not put yourself around people who wouldn't give you what you give them, people who do things that you would never do. So be mindful of who you surround yourself by, be mindful of where you spend your time and what you spend your time doing, and that alone would be super helpful for if this is a problem that you deal with, being like an overgiver. But just in general, if you want to work on any issues that you might be having, there's a couple things that you should watch that a lot of people don't take very good care of, and that's health, like what you're eating, you're sleeping, um, and hygiene. And most people most people have good hygiene, I think. Actually, I don't know. But I mean, what does that really include? Just like showering, brushing your teeth, basic stuff. But people are more likely to do that than they are to change their diet or to change their lifestyle in a way that they're no longer spending time on anything that isn't helpful to them. And people, some people are aware of like stuff like that and wellness, but I don't know. It it ends up becoming like another form of a distraction for some people instead of an awakening to make real change. And the question you always have to ask yourself is, are you still, or were you ever, but like, are you a beacon? Are you are you being a light? Are you giving out to the world? And some people get so caught up in self-care and everything that they forget how to be loving to other people, and they become kind of annoying and and very much in their own head, and they think that they're doing it right and they want to teach you how to do it right, but they're not really coming from a place of empathy as much as they are, I'm doing it right and you have to do it my way, or it's your loss. And it's good that you feel that you're doing something right, it's good that you are being healthier, but people forget to hold on to all of it. And no matter where you go in life, no matter what you do, you have to remember to hold on to who you really are. And I think all of us are beacons of light. It's inside you. And the original thing that I was going to write in the description of this video was just one sentence: a star is meant to shine. And I changed it to these song lyrics because I wanted something a little bit longer than just one sentence, and I also wanted something that meant something more, because I feel like that on its own doesn't really say much. A star is meant to shine, and you should be able to shine and do it shamelessly, to do it without worrying about whether or not it's okay, whether or not you're safe to, or whatever is in your head that's making you feel like you have to dim your shine for other people. Um, because there are people who can just endlessly shine very bright and be a wonderful, pleasant, giving light in other people's lives. And unfortunately, a lot of those people aren't really taking care of themselves. And sometimes they are. Like, I feel like that song could be about someone who isn't taking care of himself, but it could also be about someone who just isn't interested in sticking around. Like, they're there, they did their part, and now they're ready to go. But you're not ready to let them go because you think that it's too soon. But that's the thing, is that it's always there's other lyrics in the verses that are about, like, make it sound like it's about grief and letting someone go, um, but it's it's okay to let people go. Nothing lasts forever, and sometimes someone just played their part already. We all come here with a purpose, and that purpose isn't always to live to your late 90s or hundreds. It's not always to make a huge difference in the whole world. You could, death has no age. And I don't think I've done a video on suicide yet. I might do that next week. I'm not sure. But I definitely want that to be its own video. There's a lot of topics that I want to do videos on, and I have to be a little bit more organized. I am trying something out, writing a schedule for my day so that I have a time for everything that I want to do, and that way I don't feel overwhelmed by it. And I'll let you know how that works out next week. And then you can try it too if you want, if you're not already doing that. But that's just an issue that I have, is not being organized enough to the point where the things that I need to get done aren't getting done, because I always feel overwhelmed by, it feels like everything's floating around me. So when I get it all in front of me and it's not floating around me, it's not overwhelming anymore, and then I don't have to worry about it. So hopefully that has that effect, and then it's not an issue. But I don't know what I'm saying anymore. This video is about hiding from life. So what do you do when you hide from life? You don't participate in anything that involves risk, really. So no risk, no reward. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it's not as easy as just making a decision, because you have to unlearn the habits and the ways that you were thinking. But it does start with making a decision, and you can't waver. So just find some kind of incentive to decide to move forward, and then keep moving forward. And remember that if you don't do it, it's not the end of the world, because sometimes it will push you to a point where there's something you need to do and you're not doing it, but it gets to the point where the idea of not doing it becomes more unbearable than anything else. And I think if you wait long enough, you might get to a point where suddenly circumstances don't matter anymore. You just kind of put your foot down and say, I don't care where I am. I'm telling you right now, this is where I'm going. Doesn't matter what's in my way, doesn't matter where I'm starting, I'm getting there. And you will just push your way through to get to wherever you need to be. And you shouldn't have to wait to the point where you're like, you can't stand staying still anymore. You should be able to move on your own. But if it gets you to that point, you'll still get there. So there's really no way for you to be completely stuck. It's always up to you, and you're always safe. So I think reminding yourself of that often, and trusting it and believing it is really all you can do. Just don't let life overwhelm you. And I'm so interested in how many types of people there are. I mean, there's so many people who would watch something like this and have opinions about it, like the fact that I'm even talking about this comes from a place of privilege. There's people who would think that, like older people, like when I was younger, I didn't even have time to think about stuff like this, and I just had to work, and people who are treated differently for like being a minority, and they have way bigger issues and stuff like that. There's so many people who would listen to this and have something negative to say. And what I always find interesting about that is psychology, because I like looking into people's minds and figuring out, okay, you're doing this, you're saying this, but why? Because when you look at it energetically, what it feels like is just an attack. It just feels like an attack on you. And when someone physically or energetically attacks you, you have to not just react, but you have to stop and ask yourself, why is this person attacking me? And 100% of the time, it's going to be because they feel threatened by you. Something you're doing is making them feel like they need to react and lash out. You're bothering them in some way, and you're not responsible for calming them and taming them. They're responsible for that. It's their job. It's their energy to maintain. You don't have to coddle them and treat them like a baby and do everything their way. You're allowed to make your own decisions and live your own life and do things your own way. You're allowed to be at a completely different point in your learning journey than they are. And nobody should be comparing pain ever, because it's completely pointless. It's counterproductive. The only reason that you would ever have to compare pain with someone is when you're bothered by whatever they're doing or saying for some reason. So you lash out and you make it about something that it isn't about, and they don't realize that it's not about that. They just hear the words you're saying and they hear what you're trying to make it about, and then they base on that, and then it just turns into an endless argument about nothing. And if someone started saying something to you like that and you went off into a whole argument with them, you could just stop and say, all right, this person is not managing their energy, and it's not my job to do that for them. So I'm just going to let them have their tantrum, and I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to mind my own business. And I'm not going to feed into that and give them what they want, because we all go through a lot of terrible things. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who have had terrible experiences, and they hear people complain who you look at them and you're like, what do you have to complain about? And what you're really saying is, I wish that your problems were all that I had, and I I hate that I had to go through so much. But it's about you. You're not really mad at that person. That person didn't do anything. Just because you're jealous of them doesn't mean that they deserve to be attacked by you. So instead of attacking them, you could maybe just talk to them and come at it with an open mind, curiosity, instead of this this judgment, this assertiveness of I already understand what you're going through, and I know that you're stupid and you don't know what you're talking about. And when you come at someone with such a judgmental perspective, you're not coming from an open-minded place. You're kind of playing God, and you're overstepping boundaries, which means you're trying to control too much. And you actually could use some of the advice that I'm offering in this video, which is, like, not even in this video, but just on my whole channel, I always talk about this. You have to remember to have boundaries and have faith. Last week I talked a lot about the importance of having faith in something, and you can just tell that people who get so judgmental and so controlling are coming from a lack of faith in anything. They think that it's their responsibility. And ironically, a lot of people who have faith in God from a specific religion often end up with the same kind of ego issue of trying to control too much, because when they study their religion and they think that they fully understand it, they suddenly think that it's their job to preach their religion to everyone else and say, I figured it out, I know the answers, I know the truth, and I'm going to have my opinions on everyone else. Now, even if you aren't harsh when you judge them, even if you don't damn them and attack them, you still look at them and you decide who they are and where they are in their life, and you decide that you're doing better than them. Or maybe you look at someone who, by your understanding, is technically ahead of you, and you think, wow, you're doing so much better than me. These things don't always look like what they are. It can look like praising someone else. It can look like accepting someone else. It can look like all sorts of things that seem nice and friendly, but it's actually technically coming from a place of judgment and a lack of faith. That it's not your job to judge and control everyone and everything. It's only your job to see the world through a trusting and curious lens, taking care of yourself, not being a doormat, but also being open to seeing people and things for what they are, instead of trying to fit them into your understanding, fit them into the world that you've already envisioned. Because oftentimes the way we see the world is very different from what the world actually is, and we develop a picture in our minds of the world, and it changes as we learn more. So rather than try to fit things into that malleable image, you could just acknowledge that it's malleable and stop trying to control things and just let it be what it is, and see it through a curious lens. So Um, that's what people don't really do very well, and that's something that we could definitely practice. So, yeah, I mean, that type of person, people who are kind of hiding from life, um, it's definitely not something to diminish the severity of, because it is a common issue on varying levels, and people who have it really severe are just it's tragic, and sometimes it can even turn into something really dark because they're hiding from life. They are distracted, they don't want to look at what's there, and when you do that and you stray so far from faith that you're feeding all sorts of dark energy and fear, you could end up doing all sorts of things that people would be very judgmental about. You can become like, I don't know, I mean, think about someone who is in prison for murdering people, or what, like a type of person who you look at and you're like, oh, I would never do that, it's a horrible person. But you're thinking, like, it's still a person. It was a baby once. It was an innocent little baby at one point. What happened? So, you know, then there's all sorts of things people say, well, sometimes people are born evil. It's like, well, I don't personally believe anyone who's alive is without free will. I don't believe anyone who's alive doesn't have the ability to choose love and faith over fear and control. And I don't really think circumstances like your mental state when you're born or the circumstances you're born into are gonna dictate what you do. I think it can have an influence over it, but I don't think it's gonna decide it. It's still up to you, and you learn from your experiences. So we have to remember to respect people on their individual journey and say, all right, you know what? You're doing a lot of horrible things. You're feeding a lot of dark energy, and you need to be somewhere else. So, yeah, sure, keep these people away from other people, but who's to say that you can't try to help them in that case? Like what they say prison is, like rehabilitation. They don't do anything to help you. If you go to prison, that's like going to hell. You're screwed. You're gone. But nobody comes out of prison feeling like enlightened. But if we tried to actually help people, who knows? But all I know is that it hasn't been tried yet. So I don't know if it would work or not. I don't know if it would just be a situation where they're just screwed. But if that is the case, and they're really completely unhelpable, why are they even alive? So I'm kind of indifferent to the death penalty. I think sometimes, like, people need to die, but the only time that would feel justified killing someone is in self-defense, because when you go out of your way to kill someone, it just feels, I mean, it would have to be some form of self-defense, like they're on a rampage and you have to kill them to stop them, and that's not personal self-defense, but it's still killing that person to protect people from them. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of interesting moral discussions to be had about this, but that's for another video. I realized this video was very disorganized and a little longer than I wanted it to be, but if you have any questions, as usual, leave a comment. Nobody has yet, and I've been doing this for 8 weeks now. Not a single comment on any of my videos. So for those of you watching in the future, if there are comments, just know that there weren't any when I made this. And it kind of bugs me, because it's like, the only comments I've gotten are from people I've sent it to, and it's in a reply from them, not actually on the video. Nobody has anything to say. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it means nobody has any questions. But I always say leave a comment and nobody does, which makes me wonder how many people are actually making it to the end of the video. So if you're listening to this, please leave a comment just to let me know you made it. Um, and to let me know that these are worth doing, that people are actually paying attention to them. Because I could just be talking to myself all day in my room anyway, and if I'm going to be making these videos, I want to know that people are actually hearing them. Otherwise, why even bother doing it? But, you know, that's kind of like the topic of the video, someone trying to be a beacon of light and shining, but nobody notices. So the question is, do you shine anyway, or do you just move on? I don't know what I'm saying, but that's just what popped into my head, and I usually say what pops into my head. I'm not trying to, act like I am a beacon of light or anything, but I'm trying to share what I'm learning, and it's meant to be educational. So it's some form of shining, and I feel like I should do it anyway because I like talking, but the fact that nobody's watching and I still have to do it every week, it just feels like it's becoming a chore, and that is stressing me out a little bit. This is all related to the topic. This is why I made this video, because I was starting to feel like it's not worth doing. I would rather be writing my book, but if I have a schedule, like I said, I'll let you know next week. If I have a schedule, maybe it'll make everything easier and I can have time to do all of it and it won't be too overwhelming. So hopefully you like these videos, and hopefully I can start doing more interesting topics and covering like social issues and stuff. And those probably won't be super long because, well, actually that's not true, because I think, what do I have to say on it besides just a couple things? But then I will always go off on some long tangent, and I'll always end up giving my whole philosophy on everything, and then just tell you how it relates to the topic at hand. So yeah, they're all going to be long, and I can't pretend that away anymore. I understand that I'll always keep talking on and on and on. But that's just the way that I am. I hope nobody watching this is like concerned for me or anything, or I don't know. I just like, don't worry about me. Like, really, just take anything helpful away from this that you can, and leave a comment, and just don't worry about me. If you have any questions about me, you can ask, but don't be like I don't know. Don't patronize me. Don't make me feel like I'm being talked down to. That's kind of what I'm trying to avoid just in saying this, because it's like I don't always, I do these late at night, and because I can't do them in the middle of the day because everyone else is awake, and the last person to go to sleep is always my grandma, and it's always really freaking late. So by the time I'm doing this, it's like 1 in the morning, because I was going to do it at 10:30, and then I decided to watch a movie because my grandma was still up. So now I'm doing this at 1 in the morning, and I have to be awake by 8:30. So I am a little bit rambling right now, and I apologize for that. But that's just because like I don't always do this at a time where I can make the most sense, because I'm a little bit out of it, which is why I normally have a paper, but I didn't write a paper because I realized that it was too late by the time I realized I needed to do this tonight, my aunt was asleep, and the printer is right outside of her bedroom, and if I wrote something and printed it, it would wake her up. And I don't want to do that. So I didn't write anything. I just used something that I would know by memory. So this was an unusual episode. And I think it's all fitting with the topic at hand, because I picked a topic based on what I was going through, and I keep saying that. So I'm very sorry if you're watching this and you don't know what you're listening to anymore. Hopefully you clicked off 5 minutes ago. But if you're still here, thank you for being loyal. And I'm very sorry for this kind of dud of an episode. Hopefully there was something positive you could take away from it. Like, I feel like there was something else I wanted to say. Something about, I don't know, something hopeful. I forgot what it was. Oh well. It was something I thought of before I started filming a couple hours ago. If it comes to me, I might write it down and then maybe mention it next week. But until then, have a great week. Thank you for watching, and hopefully my book will be up here soon. I don't know, I never have an outro, I never know what to say. But really, seriously, thank you for watching if you made it this far.